Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of Untold Tales from this side of nowhere. I'm your host, Connor Jones, and I'm here this week to share with you another story from just about as close as you can get to the middle of nowhere. That is Poverty Flats, Wyoming. Before we get rolling today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our sponsors. Untold Tales is sponsored by Basins Market, located in Basin, Wyoming. Basins Market is your destination for groceries, fresh produce, and the best meat department in the Bighorn Basin. Come in and sample their wide selection of products Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sundays from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're also sponsored by the Wyoming Welcome Program. The Wyoming Welcome Program places brochures on restaurant tables in Cody and Powell that are filled with fun facts about Wyoming, jokes, and the month's holidays. In addition to this information, they include advertisements from local businesses. So if you're interested in being included in one of these table talk brochures and getting your business name out there, please send them an email. Their service is affordable and effective. You can reach them at HaleyJ, that's HALEYJ, at WyomingWelcome.com. And now, the podcast. Well, it's been kind of a scorcher here in northwestern Wyoming. I've been out with a crew subcontracting for Bighorn County Weed and Pest, and we've been looking forward to getting into the mountains, but we've found that even up around Shell Ranger Station, where we worked there on Thursday, it was still, 80 degrees. So I don't know where to escape from the heat in the Bighorn Basin right now, but it's also kind of smoky. We're concerned about fires, and you know those Smokey the Bear fire danger signs they put in the National Forest? They're all pretty well pointing to extremely high fire danger. So whatever you do, don't be a careless human. And as Smokey Bear would say, only you can prevent forest fires. I'm pretty sure he says that. Okay, of course he does. He's been saying it for like 100 years. Anyways, today's story, I guess, is somehow connected with the intro, because the title is Money Grows Like Trees. So kind of connected to forest fires, sort of. Anywho, here is the story. As was customary for me on a Sunday afternoon, I was reviewing the expenditures for the week and checking to see how much longer we could keep the wolves at bay. Not that keeping them there ever seemed to do us much good, since the wolves had developed an uncanny ability to find my wife Lily and I, whether they were at bay or anywhere else, sending bills to multiple addresses and calling us on both our phones. Looking through the list of purchases for the week, alarm bells started ringing when I noticed a single charge for $350 from a clothing retailer in the nearby town of Cody, Wyoming. Since I was certain I had not spent $350 on clothing myself, my suspicion fell immediately on the only other adult in our household who had a credit card. Lily. Lily, dear, I said. Yes, she asked, looking up from the book she was reading. I'm looking at this week's expenses, and I see a charge for $350 from High Country Cowgirl. There must be some mistake. Did you go shopping there? Lily remained stoic as she replied, Yes, I did. They were having a sale, and I've been looking for some jeans. My heart skipped a beat, and I spluttered, You spent $350 on jeans? Well, not just jeans, Lily smiled, shutting her book. They had all these wonderful summer blouses with beautiful prints. I picked up a few of those too. I nodded slowly, wondering how some jeans that were on sale and a few shirts could possibly be worth as much as a month's worth of groceries. Dear, I croaked, that's a lot of money to spend on clothes. Lily's smile grew a solid 1/4 of an inch. Al, you told me I could spend as much on myself as you spend on hunting and fishing this year. So I did. My eyes widened. While I remembered having a conversation along those lines after Lily raised some concerns about the amount of money I was spending on what she considered hobbies, I was completely taken aback. I hadn't spent anywhere close to $350 on hunting and fishing. Lily, I said, I haven't spent anywhere close to $350 on hunting and fishing. Lily shook her head pityingly. What about your lifetime fishing license? That cost a couple $100. Well, I huffed, that was an investment. Did you know that by the time I'm 60, I'll have saved enough money with that lifetime license, I'll be fishing for free? The key word in that statement is fishing, Lily said, with the finality of a judge declaring a verdict. The purchase still counts. Okay then, I said, only shaken a little bit. But that doesn't account for the other $150. How about the new oar for the raft? She said. We all use the raft. That doesn't count, I retorted. Lily gave me one of those looks that makes you feel like whatever you said was so ridiculous you can hardly believe you said it yourself. I swallowed hard. Lily leaned forward from her spot on the couch and rested her arms on her knees. That still brings me to the vegetarian is an old Indian word for bad hunter t-shirt, she said, each word landing like a blow. That one was on sale, I blurted out before I could think of something better to say. I hate it when that happens. Lily's smug grin lit up her face as she leaned back on the couch and scooped up her book. So, who needs to watch their spending? She mused, flicking her way back to her spot in the book with eyebrows raised. I sighed and looked back down at the list of charges to our credit card. Had I really spent $350? It seemed impossible. Geez, I need to get my affairs in order, I thought. I stood up and jammed my phone into my pocket, determined to get things under control. The next day at work, Bert, one of the other teachers, was talking to a colleague about money, and I couldn't help but listen in. Retirement will sneak up on you if you're not careful, Katie, he was saying. I started a 403b account at the start of my career, and I've been putting money in there every paycheck. It's been growing slowly, but by the time I retire, I'll have a gazillion dollars saved so I can retire like a king. Katie was nodding, deep in thought. I had to make an effort to hide the fact I was eavesdropping. Jones, I see you're making an effort to hide the fact you're eavesdropping, Bert grunted. Embarrassed, I shrugged. Yeah, sorry. I'm just trying to get my finances in order, and I haven't really thought about retirement. What kind of account did you say you opened? Bert gave a little cough and swelled like a bullfrog before imparting his wisdom. It's a 403b, Bert declared. It's a lot like a 401k, but there's a lot of debate whether it's preferable to a Roth IRA. You could also get a 457b, but I chose to go with the 403b for my retirement funding because by the time Katie had revived me from the investment portfolio-induced coma I had fallen into, the bell rang and students began flooding the halls. I passed a hand across my face and blinked the sleep from my eyes. Thanks, Katie, I grunted. You're welcome, she replied. Only reason I don't fall asleep listening to Bert anymore is because I've learned to tune him out. Yeah, I guess I need to learn how to do that too, I said. I was no closer to organizing my finances, and all the conversation with Bert had resulted in was the beginnings of an ulcer somewhere in my stomach. How was I going to get my spending on hunting and fishing under control and plan for retirement? In desperation, I turned to one of the resources I could always count on: books. On the way home from work, I stopped by the county library and asked the librarian to direct me to books on finances and retirement. My heart sank when I realized there was an entire shelf dedicated to the topic. "Guess I'll give this one a shot," I muttered, pulling a brightly colored book from the shelf. I read the title, "Get Your Finances in Order" by Greta Budget, then flipped through a few pages. The edges of my vision blurred as the whispers of that coma I had fallen into earlier threatened to overwhelm me again. I tossed the book over my shoulder. Librarians love it when people do that. The next title I selected was Escaping Poverty by Mary Rich. It looked a little more interesting. There was also Self-Made Millionaire by Cassius King. And I had just opened a book called Invest for Success when my phone started ringing. It was Lily. "Hey dear," I said, holding the phone between my ear and my shoulder while continuing to look at the book. I read the dedication, 401k, and raised my eyebrows. "Al, are you going to be home soon?" Lily asked. "I'm playing pickleball tonight, so you're on daddy duty." "That's right," I gasped. "Sorry, I almost forgot. I just stopped by the library real quick." Just then, I was interrupted by the most piercing ahem I have ever heard. Librarians have an uncanny ability to sneak up on you when you least expect it. I spun around to see a stern-looking woman with her hair pulled back in a bun so tight I'm surprised her eyebrows stayed on her face. She had "Get Your Finances in Order" tucked under one arm, and she did not look happy. I guess librarians don't love it when people throw books. She fiercely mouthed the words, "Hang up," and pointed at a sign that said, "Please do not talk on the phone in the library." I nodded quickly and said, "Sorry, dear, gotta go. I'm getting kicked out of the library." Books having failed me, I turned to the last hope I had for figuring out finances, my childhood friend, Marty Flincherton. You see, in spite of all his childhood faults, Marty had managed to build on them by becoming a stockbroker at the New York Stock Exchange. I hadn't seen Marty in years, but I thought if anyone could give me a few pointers, it would be Marty. His social media was filled with pictures of him hunting and fishing in exotic places, and I wondered how he ever got any work done when he seemed to be going on vacation every other week. I hoped the phone number I found on his LinkedIn profile would work, and I was rewarded after the second ring. A pre-recorded voice greeted me with, "You have reached the stock brokerage of Flincherton and Fletcher. For Flincherton, press 2. And for Fletcher, press 3. If you're calling about a complaint or the recent inquiry by the SEC, please stay on the line, and a customer service representative will be with you shortly." I pressed 2 and heard a couple more rings before a woman's voice said, "Flincherton's office. This is his secretary speaking." Dang, I was getting impressed. Marty really had made it big in the financial world. "Yes," I said. "I was wondering if I could speak with Mr. Flincherton. I'm an old friend of his." "Mr. Flincherton seems to have a lot of those," the secretary replied. "What is your name?" "I'm Al Jones," I replied. "I'm sure Marty will remember me." "I'll see if he's available," the woman replied tersely. Elevator music started issuing from the phone, and I began tapping my fingers on the countertop, picturing the secretary in a smart business outfit pushing a flashy glass door open to address Marty, whom I pictured leaning back in a leather chair behind an enormous oak desk. After a moment or two, the secretary came back on the line. I'll send you over to Mr. Flincherton, she said, and I heard another ring. Al, came the jovial voice of my old buddy. How are you, man? His voice was slightly muffled, and it was a little hard to understand him. Marty, I'm doing great, I replied. Man, it's been years, Marty said. I'm here with my business partner, Alec Fletcher. You still living in the middle of nowhere? Huh, yeah, sure I am, I chuckled. It's, a little hard to understand you, I said. Oh, sorry, Marty grunted. Is this better? He asked. Much, I replied. Haha, it's just this Cuban cigar, he said. When you're as rich as I am, it's basically a requirement to have one of these in your mouth at all times. Hey, can you give me a sec? Oh, Marty, I didn't know you smoked, I said. Oh, no, I don't smoke. Just keeping up appearances, you know, Marty laughed. Before I could answer, elevator music filled my ear. Had Marty put me on hold? I wondered if Marty was usually so busy he couldn't stay on a phone call with an old friend for more than a few moments. A minute or two passed, and then Marty's voice replaced the litany of sound issuing from the telephone. You still there, sport? Marty asked. Yup, I said. Oh, good. Sorry, I had to take that. Did you know Elon Musk has entrusted me with his portfolio? It's mostly Tesla stock, but he has a few other interests. You couldn't believe how much money it takes to run SpaceX. One of those Falcon 9s costs about $1 billion. I raised my eyebrows. Elon Musk, huh? I asked. I guess I called the right guy. Oh, yeah? Marty grunted. What can I do you for? I imagined Marty kicked back in his leather chair, cigar in hand, and the view of Manhattan spread out before him. Well, I had a question or two about my finances, I began. Sure, Marty boomed. I can help out there. My portfolio is one of the hottest on Wall Street. We netted $500 million last year, and I guarantee a return of at least 10% if you invest with us. Wowee, I said, trying to imagine what it would be like to net $5 million. Oh, hold on there, Al, Marty said. I heard muffled voices in the background. From the sound of it, Alec was taking his leave of Marty's office. By the time Marty came back on the line, I was sure some of his accounts had already earned at least 10% in interest. Hey, Al, you still there? Marty asked. His voice suddenly changed. Rather than the booming, cheery voice I had heard before, Marty's voice was now low and even somewhat urgent. Yes, I'm here, Marty, I said. Gee, I'm glad you called, Marty said. Listen, I couldn't ask you before, but could you loan me some money? Just enough to get through the month. Taken aback, I said, Some money? I thought Marty was using Franklin's for toilet paper, and yet he was asking me for money? Yeah, not too much, though, Marty said, his voice still hushed. I laughed nervously. Well, I guess I could help, I said. I thought you were making money hand over fist over there. Well, I am, but private jets and yachts don't come cheap these days, Marty said. With inflation and this Russia-Ukraine deal going on, the markets have been like a roller coaster lately. I'm sure things will come back up, but could you spare a few bucks, say $250,000? Just enough to get me through the month. Now I really laughed. I thought about telling Marty that $250,000 probably constituted every penny I had earned in my career up to that point, but thought better of it. Marty, if I had $250,000 to give you, I would, but I guess we live in a different reality out here in Wyoming. I was calling to see if you could give me some advice about money. Oh yeah, I can help there, Marty said, his voice gaining strength. You've read my book, right? He asked. No, I said. I didn't know you wrote one. Oh, yeah, Marty crowed. Self-made millionaire. I used a pen name, of course. Cassius King. Do you get it? You know what? I think I have seen it at the library, I said. Now, about that money, Marty continued. Do you think Fred could help me out? I shook my head. Gee, Marty, I don't know. Do you have a pretty good life insurance policy? Have you ever considered faking your own death? I joked. Marty sighed. Yeah, a few times. Thing is, it would be a bummer deal having to get remarried to my wife. You're married, Marty? I asked. Congratulations! I didn't know there was a Mrs. Flincherton. Well, yeah, Marty laughed. We just got married last month, and she's not exactly Mrs. Flincherton. I guess keeping your maiden name is all the rage these days. Oh, I said. Well then, what is the lucky lady's name? Mary Rich, Marty said. Where did you meet her? I asked. You'll never believe this. She was a waitress at one of the charity events I went to, Marty said. You don't say, I mused. By the time I had finished talking with Marty, I wasn't sure if I felt better or worse about my finances. I set my phone down on the counter and sighed. I surveyed the collection of bills that covered its surface. I wasn't any closer to financial freedom, and I definitely wasn't going to be able to keep up my hunting and fishing habits if I didn't figure something out. Just then Lily walked in with a basket full of neatly folded laundry. How's Marty? She asked. Oh, he's doing fine, I mused. You any closer to getting your spending under control? Lily asked me. I smiled wryly. Not really. Lily set the basket down and began putting towels in a drawer. I do have one idea, I said. Oh, yeah? Lily asked, straightening up. Yeah, I grinned. Would you remarry me if I faked my own death? Well, there you have it. Another untold tale from this side of nowhere. Yeah, with everything going on in the world today, financial concerns are very real. I know a lot of people are living hand to mouth, and it's hard for a guy to find some money to go hunting and fishing. I know there are a lot bigger concerns out there, but it seemed like a topic that some guys can relate to. I've seen videos online of guys who seem to have all the money in the world for hunting gear and fishing trips, and yeah, I do not relate very well to those individuals, but perhaps you can relate to the struggle to scrape together some money for that. Vegetarian is an old Indian word for bad hunter t-shirt, or that lifetime fishing license. And if you do, or you can, I'd be happy to hear from you. Go ahead and shoot me an email at untoldtalesthepodcast@gmail.com or message us on Facebook. And if you would like to support the podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you could go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review, even if you just give me 5 stars. If you are going to leave anything less than 5 stars, just don't bother. Nah, just kidding. Anyways, it has been a lot of fun sharing another story with you, and I hope you have a fantastic couple of weeks before we meet again. As always, this has been another untold tale from this side of nowhere, where we work twice as hard for half as much and still find time for the important things, like fishing. Catch you next time, folks.